Hey, what's up everyone? I'm going to go ahead and bring you some of the latest news. First off, the news regarding the particular place where President Trump is going to be meeting with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. He officially announced it yesterday that the Korea Summit, the North Korean Summit, will be in Singapore, which was one of the places discussed as a possible location for the meeting. Originally, they stated it will either be in one of three places, the DNZ, or it will be at the border between North and South Korea, or in Singapore, and they wound up going with Singapore. So that is, as of the current news, the place that he will be meeting Kim Jong-un. So the highly anticipated meeting, he stated, between Kim Jong-un and myself will take place in Singapore on June 12th. So they will be meeting next month, 1 month from now. We will both try to make it a very special moment for world peace. So that will take place on June 12th, and that's the latest tweet by Donald Trump. And in other news, Israel strikes nearly all the Iranian infrastructure in Syria after Iran's rocket attack, the minister of Syria stated. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you a bit of a recap based on memory. So, what occurred within the past few days is the rising tension between Israel, Iran, and Syria. Those three nations. Now, Russia so far has not stated any involvement with this, but I do know that Assad of Syria and Putin of Russia have very, very close ties with each other, and they have a very close friendship, so to speak, with those two individuals, those two nations. So Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader of Israel, went to Russia to have a meeting. I believe it was yesterday. It was within the past 48 hours or so a day or two. They had a meeting, they spoke. Basically, he stated, well, you just do what you have to do to protect your own nation. I don't know what else they had to say, but that's the summary of it. Now, it took place basically just behind closed doors. It took place where, no one really knows what was actually officially stated, so you can't really state what they said. But according to what I got out of the Reuters article, they stated that, and the Jerusalem Post as well, that he came out of there and stated, I have to protect my nation against those with threatening nuclear weapons. And if you remember a week ago or so, and they've been stating that for a while. They've been warning Iran, don't do this. So, if you remember, about a week ago it was stated again. If Iran strikes Israel, that's what Netanyahu stated. If Iran strikes Israel through Syria, then I will retaliate. He said he will retaliate against them. Now, Iran has several bases in Syria and also has close ties because he's fearing that Iran is using Syria to make nuclear weapons and nuclear materials. He's fearing that Iran is taking their weapons over across the country, across the border, and that Syria is helping them out. And understandably so, with good reason, because evidence shows, and there was evidence supported that actually was released, and the majority of even the news articles stated that it is truthful. It's a fact. The fact checks were stated that Benjamin Netanyahu was correct. Iran does have nuclear weapons, but so does Israel, according to Iran. But President Trump stated, you just have to do what you have to do. The same thing as Putin said. Basically, or Putin was stated to have said, do what you have to do. Israel then retaliated yesterday, and it's been an ongoing barrage of missiles back and forth between Iran, Syria, and Israel. But basically, Iran striking through Syria, and Israel struck south of Damascus. I don't think Damascus was actually struck. I might be wrong. Now, I do remember back in 2011 when all the tensions were rising and escalating over in that area, Damascus looked like pretty much in rubble, but the entire place wasn't destroyed, but much of it was in a whole lot of rubble. You can look up probably find it online, but I remembered seeing it. It was very, very, I thought the time was then that all that was happening, but it's escalating once again, and things look slightly more normal, but now tensions are rising once more. But back to what I was stating a moment ago. From what I remember, basically, Netanyahu stated, "Do not strike us through Syria." What did Iran do? Well, they struck them through Syria. But Israel has nuclear weapons as well, and as you probably know, the United States has been funding over time their Iron Dome for protection, a missile defense system that surrounds the borders of Israel to protect them from any sort of incoming attacks from surrounding nations, because of the crazy tension over there that they and all of the things they have against the Jewish people and Israel. So they have to have something to protect themselves. So they have the Iron Dome, which was also funded by the United States and the U.S. military. And so we helped fund that, and we still do. And Donald Trump is very close to the Israeli people, and Jared Kushner as well, which his son-in-law is Jewish, so he has very close ties to the Israeli people. On May 14th, he may or may not be going to Israel for a meeting a month before the scheduled meeting with Kim Jong-un. He may or may not be going over to Israel. I don't know. So he stated, within a few days, I'll know if I'm going to Israel or not, to Jerusalem, to reinstate Jerusalem as the capital and rebuild the new embassy. Beginning, now it's going to take a period of several months to actually build the embassy, not rebuild, but build the new embassy in Jerusalem and create Trump Town over there. It's going to take a while to do that, so that's going to take a period of time, obviously. And so he stated that he is going to do that, but whether or not he's actually going to Israel, especially during all of this tension, is uncertain. It is interesting to note that it will be on their 70th anniversary of May 14th, 1948, as the founding of Israel, refounding, basically. Israel they had their land, but it wasn't officially theirs. It belonged to the Palestinians, and all of this and all of the tensions took place. We flew in with our planes. We basically helped create the nation. We basically helped create and reestablish, in documentation, we reestablished the nation of Israel in 1948. That's what happened. So we helped them get their land back, and that was what many believed to be the beginning of prophecy, escalating end times prophecy, or the new age and the end of the age and all of that of biblical prophecy. Many people believe it to be the significant point, the beginning point of the returning of Jesus Christ, and prophecy relating to that. That's what many people believe. And it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. So that would be the beginning of that, because that's what it states. And but moving back to what's taking place over there. So they stated, and Trump basically said the same thing, you have to have weapons of equal or greater power to protect yourself against any sort of imminent threat surrounding you. So it's obvious that Israel has to have weapons to protect themselves against the weapons surrounding them. So anyway, now it's been an ongoing barrage of attacks back and forth. I think they had 40 missiles struck at Israel. Many of them were knocked down by the Iron Dome missile defense system. And from what I remember, Syria and Iran had several missiles struck at them. But Israel actually got their target. So Israel and Iran. Let's go ahead and read this article. I'll post the link to it below. I was just telling the rest of the stuff off the top of my mind, so what I'm going to state now is this article. So Israel actually struck most of all of the Iranian infrastructure in Syria when they did this attack. So Israel and Iran, moving on to the article, this is from Fox News. They reached the brink of full-scale war Thursday as the Islamic Republic unprovoked rocket attack on soldiers in the Golan Heights. It gave way to an unprecedented Israeli counterstrike that targeted nearly all of Iranians' infrastructure inside of Syria. So they did hit all of their targets, basically, most all of their targets. Now, this came after a strike against Israel, so they told them, do not strike us. They did, so they retaliated. Israel retaliated. Now, the Israeli Defense Force said that it deployed fighter jets and used missiles to strike a range of targets, including military compounds, intelligence operations, and munitions warehouses, a statement read. The strikes were Israel's largest air operation in Syria since the 1973 war. The IDF will not allow the Iranian threat to establish itself in Syria. The Israeli defense system says that the Syrian regime will be held accountable for everything happening in its territory, the press release read. The IDF is prepared for a wide variety of scenarios. So I'm going to, you can read this article for yourself. I don't know how much time I have left in the how much memory I have left in the card, but let's see. There were 4 rockets which were intercepted, and the other fell short of their targets. No injuries or damage was reported. The White House on Thursday condemned the Iranian assault 2 days after President Trump announced he was pulling out of the United States. He was pulling the United States out of the Iran nuke deal. Now, other nations are still involved in that. I believe various nations of the European Union, including, let's see, England, I know France, Germany, and several other nations involved in the EU are still holding on with that Iranian nuclear quote-unquote deal that took place. So they're still holding on to it, but the United States pulled out of that deal. So I'll bring the latest on that as I find it as well. But that's what I remember, which was also stated on several news sources. The United States condemns the Iranian regime's provocative rocket attack from Syria against Israeli citizens, and we strongly support Israel's right to act in self-defense, which makes sense. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said in a statement that the Iranian regime's deployment into Syria of offensive rockets and missile systems aimed at Israel, it is an unacceptable and highly dangerous development for the entire Middle East. Now, that is an obvious statement of truth there. I mean, I don't know how anyone could argue with that as far as, I mean, having those weapons, that is an obvious threat. So, moving on to the rest of the article, Israel's rockets shook Damascus. So it did shake Damascus with sounds of explosions just before dawn. Syria state media said that the Syrian air defense intercepted hostile, quote-unquote, hostile Israeli missiles early Thursday that were fired over southwestern Damascus. Hours later, state-run Al-Kabariya, the TV broadcast a live feed of the Syrian air defenses firing into the sky above the capital, and loud explosions and air defense firing were heard through the night. The footage could not be independently verified, though. The Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that the Israeli airstrikes killed 23 fighters, including 5 Syrian soldiers. Syria's military, however, said early Thursday the Israeli strikes killed 3 people, wounded 2, and destroyed a radar station and an ammunition warehouse, and damaged a number of air defense units. Syrian General Ali Mayoub said Syrian air defense systems had intercepted, quote-unquote, the large part of, end quote, of the incoming Israeli strikes. There was no immediate information about Iranian casualties, but Concrecus said that the main intent was to target hardware rather than personnel. Tensions between Israel and Syria have been on the rise, as Iran has sent thousands and thousands of troops to back Syrian President Bashar al-Assad from an insurgency in his country. Israel has warned it will not accept a permanent Iranian military presence in Syria, though Israel does not intend to further escalate the situation. Concrecus said troops will remain on, quote, unquote, very high alert should there be another Iranian attack. This is from the Associated Press. They contributed to this report as well as Fox News. So that's all for this video. These are some various updates regarding where President Trump will be meeting with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, and also the latest news and developments that I remember them stating, and also this article here, what it has to say about the escalating tensions in the Middle East and the news regarding Russia, Syria, Iran, and Israel. So, much love. This is the latest news, and I send much love to all of you. Peace. I hope to speak with you all again very soon. Bye.